Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is a webinar series, and the topic of today is essential skill for academic communication. I am the speaker of today, Kang. I'm also Services and Asia Training Executive from Cambridge University Press. So this is our schedule. We've done 3 webinars. We've done the introduction. We talked about how to select an appropriate journal, and we talked about peer review and ethics last month. So today's topic is about essential skills for academic communication. So for you who've already know me, this is my introduction. Some of you might join today and might not know me. I'm working to improve author services in multiple ways and help authors to achieve their professional goals. I have 5 years of experience training in the consulting in area of OA, and I'm focusing on supporting authors to improve their chances at publishing in top-tier journals, focusing on Asia. And this is my email address. If you have any questions after the webinar, feel free to email me. Okay, so we're going to talk about 2 main topics today. The first one is effective science communication, and the second one is scientific presentation. And the first, the skill of communication. A new study published today. Okay. A new study published today in Proceeding of National Academy of Science from researchers at University of Cambridge and the University of Essex suggested that when it comes to judging scientists, we are more likely to find an attractive scientist interesting, but more likely to consider their less attractive colleagues to be better scientists. So we sometimes judge people based on whether they are attractive or not. And researchers also found that people were more interested in learning about work of scientists who were physically attractive and who appeared competent and moral. So it seems like very important for us to be attractive or to do an attractive presentation or make our communication attractive. So why do we want, and this is about like why do we want to engage in science communication? Some benefits are listed here. First, enable informed decision making. By broadly sharing research results, you will ensure that those making decisions on behalf of others have access to the fact and information they need to act objectively. For example, based on up-to-date models and statistics, public health officials could be better positioned to devise effective strategies to handle an emerging disease outbreak in cattle, such as whether to cull livestock in certain farming communities, and influence behavior. By broadly sharing your findings, more people can apply what they have, what they learned from you to their own everyday lives. For example, research on plastic biodegradation could encourage people to reduce their plastic consumption and increase trust in science. When researchers speak openly about their work, this presents a human side to research, which in turn helps people trust the information more than if it came from an anonymous source. Increasing trust in science also helps reduce the spread of misinformation as we are more likely to share information from source we trust. And the number 4, generate public support. An effect of increasing trust in science is an increase in public support for research. This in turn can lead to more political support for science and eventually more public funding for research. For this reason, many funders ask researchers to share their research more broadly. And the final one, inspire the next generation. By being visible to public, researchers can inspire others to consider a career in research. Being available to answer questions or demonstrate day-to-day life as a researcher can make a research career more accessible to students. So that's a benefit of engaging in science communication. And then how to achieve an effective communication. The first one is understand your audience. So the following list here provides some examples of audience you might discuss. For each audience, we have also some examples. We can talk about the examples. For example, the first one, if the audience are researchers in your field, the situation could be giving a talk at a conference. If that's your friends and family, it could be catching up with them and sharing what you work on. In that case, you might use different languages, different words to describe what you're doing. And if that's journalist, it could be giving a media interview about your research. If that's prospective new students, you might want to handle a wet lab teaching session at a local high school. If that's for charity and funders, it could be interviewing with a charity board and to request fundings for a latest project. If that's patients and clinicians, well, it could be answering online questions about the latest results from an ongoing clinical trial. If that's like researchers in a different field, it could be you to chat to friends or in your institution. So different situations you are facing to different audience, and different audience, they have different needs. So when you understand your audience, and then you need to identify your audience. Your audience might already be defined by the goal you set, or you might need to think about best audience you need to reach to achieve your goals. We already have some goals. For example, we want to present to the school, we want to attract new students, we want to show our results. Depending on our goal, we to identify the audience or reach out to the audience. So your audience is clearly specified in your communication goal. For example, if your goal is to find new prospective students for your department, your audience will be high school students, and your presentation will, you might want to use not that technical words, and you need to decide which audience will help you to achieve your goals. For example, if your goal is to encourage people to take action based on research findings, you should consider which audience would be the best to be able to use your communication. In that case, you might consider like policymaker, community groups, or local media. And your audience is dictated by your method of communication. For example, if you might be invited to speak somewhere or do an interview for a magazine, in that case, there is usually a predefined audience in place, such as the audience of the event or the readers of the magazine. And if you and you have multiple audience, for example, if your goal is to tell people about your latest research, you might need to share your message multiple times to different audience. Each time you prepare to communicate to a new audience, you should learn a little bit about them. So that's identify your audience. And after you've done that, you want to reach your audience. Science communication takes many different forms, as there are multiple ways to reach your audience. Sometimes you will want to reach many people at once with an article in a journal or in a magazine or on the website or through an interview on the radio or TV or podcast. Maybe you know exactly where to find your audience online and you can use social media channels to reach them. Or perhaps the best way for you to achieve your goal is by meeting your audience in person to get a talk, to demonstrate your work, or to hold a question and answer session. There are different ways to reach your audience, and what works for one type of the communication goal isn't necessarily right for another. So the first one could be writing. There are 4 different types, ways of writing, presenting, using social media, or being interviewed. So for the writing, you can write about your research in a publication, on the website, in a blog, or for a newsletter targeted to a specific audience. It depends on your goals and your audience. You can explain your research, discuss someone's research, or share an informed opinion. And the second, presenting, you can present in person or through a video connection online, or even pre-record a presentation and post it online to share it more widely. That's what we do. Sometimes you can see lots of videos on Cambridge Author Hub. It's like a finished presentation or a finished video has been put online. And presenting isn't limited to give talks. You can demonstrate experiments, show equipment, and interact directly with your audience. And for example, like speaking about your research at the science festival, that's a kind of one form of presenting. And number 3, the social media. If your audience is on social media, you can directly interact with them and share what you are working on. You can also answer their questions and find out what they want to know more about. For example, you can see the discussion group on Facebook or on the ResearchGate. And some researchers even post their new articles on LinkedIn, like this. And the number 4, being interviewed. You might be interviewed by a journalist who's writing an article, or by a presenter of TV or radio program or podcast. Because you are the scientist, you are the researcher. You might also be interviewed by your institute's press office. And there are also other ways to reach out audience outside of science. For example, you can consult on a communicate project, have conversation with friends and family, or collaborate with artists on a science-themed performance or exhibition. Often these projects still involve writing and speaking about science in some way. And you need to correctly match audience goals and your methods. For example, if you want to highlight your latest research to researchers in other field, you can write a blog post for a relevant scientific organization. So reach your audience. The point is correctly match audience goals and methods. So this is like a very general some skills and tips for how to effectively communicate with your audience. And then let's have a look at the second part, giving an effective presentation. So although presenting is a frequent task for most of us, many of us only receive minimal training in presenting and instead expect to pick up the skills as we go along. The problem is that presenting research is very different from doing research. So it's not surprising that many of us can struggle with the task. So good presenting skills or good presentations advance our career. Most of us at some point have found ourselves listening to a rather unengaging talk while it felt as though the presenter had just assembled some pre-existing slides, or decided to run through a list of experiments without any clear purpose. So great presentations can markedly drive your research career, improve your reputation within the scientific community, and help advance your research. By contrast, giving mediocre talks might mean missing out on opportunities. And this difference applies to researchers at all career stage. So here are some advances I've listed here. So we've talked about good presentation advance our career. Then what makes a good talk? So at first glance, the quality that make a scientific talk great are hard to pin down. Similar to those relating to music or painting or other human activities. Understanding the quality of great speaker history is one thing, but likely most seminar or conference do not involve stirring speeches. However, a little reflection after hearing a very good or very excellent scientific presentation is due to very specific qualities of the speaker. So the point is us as the speaker. The first thing is confidence. So conveying to the audience that the speaker knows what we are talking about while hiding any signs of nervousness. Secondly, the style of the speaker is often conversational, the very opposite of speechifying. This means that however big the audience, each member is made to feel that the speaker is communicating to them along. Like if I'm a good speaker, you will feel like I am talking to you, only you. This is very much like the fireside chat of U.S. President, Franklin D. Roosevelt, in which he managed to achieve a personal touch despite addressing millions of radio listeners. So that is a great talk. And before getting into details about presentation of talk itself, we must stress the need to keep it within a defined time limit. You can find this table very useful, and you might find this table in many books or online forms. We can define slides as units of visual material displayed to your audience. And this will be mainly digital slides created using like PowerPoint, but there will be circumstance where a chalkboard, flip chart, or overhead projector will be used instead. In this case, it's the time taken to draw on the board or chat will slow the talk down compared with when digital slides are used. Determine the maximum number of slides that can be comfortably delivered within the allotted time. this table gave rough guide for distinct type of presentation based on an average slide rate of slightly less than 1 per minute. So if that's conference or workshop session, like duration is maybe like 10 minutes, time for questions could be 5 minutes. Then the suggested working number of slides is 7 to 9. So each slide you might spend like 1 minute, around 1 minute. You got 10 minutes for 5 minutes for duration, 5 minutes for the questions. And the figure that does not have to be adhered to exactly. Some slides can be lingered over for most of the talk. So the actual number used might be very slow. Alternatively, filter slides may be used to break the talk into logical section and may last for much less than a minute. So the final number may even exceed the maximum quoted. So the thing is, you can calculate based on your slides, but I personally think you could rehearsal before your talk, and then you know how much time you might need for the whole presentation. So this is a time, and this is very important. And how to plan our talks. First, turning your material into a story. So a dry recitation of facts does not make a good talk. Since science deal with facts, there is a real danger that presenter will fall into this trap. It also occurs in areas outside science, including tourism. I think some of us have been bored by a poorly trained guide who just lists the dates and places without any context or human interest. And you're gonna feel like really boring, go with that tour guide. And this is why crafting talk into a story is of fundamental importance. We don't expect we could talk like a fiction, but the story format could convey the key message in a way that human beings can absorb. If we do not think in that way from the outset, the resulting talk can be formulaic and boring. And there's a way to enhance a presentation, which is to draw upon relevant historical allusions or a site that might help you to put your work in context, or just provide a bit of general interest to try to attract normal people. And the second, the elevator page. Could you identify the essential meaning of your work and convey it succinct in the time it takes for for 3 minutes? We call that for an elevator to travel a few floors. This is an elevator page that is now so prevalent in management training and the related activities. Regardless of how the term originated, and there are several accounts online, the concept is very useful, particularly so for planning a longer formal presentation. As far as I know, some universities ask their PhD students to do the 3 minutes presentation about their thesis. That's a quite similar practice. And acknowledgement in the collaborative world of scientific research is very rare for a speaker to have nobody to acknowledge. So colleagues should be thanked during the talk. This seems to occur most commonly at the end, after the conclusion side. But also you can you can try placing acknowledgement at the beginning of the talk. It's also okay. And number 4, handling multiple themes. A short conference conference presentation is not long enough to cover more than one thing. So the path for questions to conclusion is a linear and continuous one. A longer seminar or keynote speech is a different method. The speaker, we may still have a single key message, but this time it can be reached by a number of paths using data that have been generated by a number of collaborators. There may also be more than one group of conclusions, so the most punchy should be left for the end. The challenge with this type of presentation is to keep the key message in focus without excessive side tracking or styling. The basic principle of storytelling must still be adhered to, but this time with added subplots and natural breaks. Even if the audience is hanging on your every word during a seminar or longer talk, they will respond to a series of breaks in the flow of information. This can be brief summarized of what has been delivered already, or visual cues to introduce the next theme. There is definitely a place for appropriate humor as well, a device that is used in many thrillers to break the ice. And structuring the talk. So this is also part of planning the talk. The basic structure of the talk needs boundaries so that you can guide the audience in whatever direction you want. The route and destination must be planned carefully. Otherwise, the audience will be lost and talk will be failure. Once you have defined the limits of the talk and articulate the key message, next stage involves establishing a logical sequence. There seems to be a good consensus among writers on scientific presentation about just what the logic sequence could be. So this is a structure we would like to suggest you to use. First part, why you did this work. That's pretty much about the introduction in the presentation part. And the second, how you did it, equals to the methods and what you found, results, and what you think it means, summary and conclusion. So the figure on the left, the relative proportion of the talk that should be devoted to each of the section is summarized in the figure. So this is planning the talk. And we talked about the narrative structure. So the narrative structure provides a scaffold in which you can insert your findings to arrange them in logical sequence. Organizing your findings into this kind of cause and effect relationship helps you your audience engage with your talk in these two ways. First, clarify your line of thought and the key message. Story structure help your audience to follow the line of thought that can lead you to your key message. If you don't create a logical link, your audience might draw their own conclusion from your data. Ideally, these conclusions would match yours or add a new interesting angle that you haven't considered yet. But in reality, however, it is possible that your audience misinterprets your results, given that they probably haven't thought about them for as long as you have, and might not have looked at all information you considered. And the second, building and maintain tension. Story structure also help you to build and maintain tension during your during your presentation. Compelling stories constantly rise and answer questions in the audience mind, leaving them to wonder, and then what? Until you reach your conclusion at the end. That's a two thing. Use a narrative structure. And when you've done the thoughts, when you know your audience, identify them, and choose a way, when you present, you plan the talk, oh, you've done everything. And the next step is set up your slide deck. So choose your presentation software. Normally we use PowerPoint, and I am using PowerPoint too. It's part of the Microsoft Office program. And someone might use Keynote too. Keynote is Apple's native presentation software. And some of us might use Google Slides. And Google Slides is a browser-based app that is freely available within Google. So it doesn't matter which platform, which software you're going to use. The next step is to choose a suitable template. So for example, we working for Cambridge, we have official kind of template to use. So we don't have to choose template. If your university or your institution has your branding, your official slides template, you can just use that. If your students and your school doesn't have that, just use based on your audience, based on the situation, choose a suitable one to use. And then setting up your slide deck, make it a logically story. And the next slide is some resources. I've put the PowerPoint tutorial, Keynote, Google Slides links here. And also, because I referenced the book published by Cambridge, The Presentation Skill for Scientists, a practical guide. And this is a link. If you are, I think most of you are customers for Cambridge and your university must have purchased the book. You can just use the institutional login and to log into the website, the Cambridge Core, and then you can get that book freely online. And this is a conference checklist, also from that book. The following checklist contains key points for a last-minute check over. I think this is quite useful for you if you're going to go to the conference. I think after COVID, we might need to go to lots of conference on site, and this could be really useful for you. And thank you for coming to today's webinar. This is the end. If you have any questions, please feel free to type your question to the Q&A box. And this is a survey, feedback survey. If you have time, please scan the QR code and complete the survey. Let us know your suggestions. And thank you very much. And this is our schedule for the next time. Next topic will be enhance the international impact of your research. We're going to talk about how to promote your article, your published manuscripts. What are some of the big difference in academic presentation, business presentation, PhD first year coming straightforward? Well, The academic presentation is more like you're going to talk about research topics, your field, your experimental, everything about your research. But a business presentation is more about like you are part of the business process, or you're part about uh you're part about the increasing or interest process. So we're talking about that. The focus might not be on your research or your experiment, but on the benefits of your research. And what kind of benefits could you to bring to this business model? That's the main point, main difference. Please show the QR code again. QR code here. And what are the common traits to let audience attend to our talk or presentation for the whole time? I have some tips personally. Normally we don't have like too long presentation, like longer than 40 minutes. Normally we would suggest people to have 20 minutes to 30 minutes. I think even 15 minutes is the best, 20 minutes is the best. So people can concentrate on things. Doesn't matter what kind of things, people can concentrate on that in the first 10 minutes. And then we kind of start to like our brain is kind of hiding out and it's not here, and start to think about things, can't really concentrate. So for the speaker, you need to adjust that atmosphere. Like we are talking about key things. It just emphasizes tones. That's the first thing. And you don't want to put things that audience need to think together, to separate them. For example, at the first 3 minutes, it's a really introduction. It's a really like background, and people gradually feeling like they are getting there. And then you start to talk about something important. And then the break slide, you give people some time to have a small break. You're talking about that, but that's not important. And people can kind of rest, their brain can have a rest. And then you start to talk about main things. And people can start to think again. And also, like what we talked in the slides, you sometimes could talk about some humor things, some general things with human interest. Some examples can also make people to concentrate from the beginning to the end. And also the storytelling method. If you're talking about things like you're talking about story, people might not want to leave. They want to listen to the results. Like everyone's like this. We want to know the results. We know the method you've done. We know everything, and we just want to know the results. And then they're gonna leave. They're gonna stay to the end. Excuse me. Do you have any software or website to do brainstorming for your talk or seminar? No, I don't. I already hand drafting. I already write by handwriting or hand drawing. It's really like hand drafting. I think just personally think I prefer handwriting. And how bad it is if a speaker cannot finish presentation? Time, what to do after the time has run out. So it depends on what kind of situation. If that's some like a casual presentation, you might still have time to finish that. If that's pretty strict, like next it's a new year, bell gonna ring and you don't have enough time, then they might stop you. So and also a really long presentation want to attract people. So the 3 minutes three minutes presentation training is trying to let us to practice to express our core idea with some support, with logical thoughts in a really short time. Time is just a trick. 3 minutes introduction at glance, then to main things with human interest. Make result as story, adjusting atmosphere. Yeah, yes, that's right. Depending on yes, kind of personal experience. Yeah, about the time, it really depends on the situation. If that's just Carol, I think that's fine. But I think mostly when we are going to the conference, the time could be really strict because the arrangement is like really tight. The schedule is tight. So we'd better finish our presentation on time. How can academic communication strategy be effectively tailored to accommodate various audience with different levels of oh wow. What's a good question by Giovanni? Well, yeah, it's difficult if your audience are diverse, very fine levels of experiment and knowledge in a specific field. Yeah, it's like you put undergraduate students, PhD students, and also some really experienced audience there. And in that case, you might start to think which part of audience is your main audience. You cannot use a single presentation to satisfy all different groups. It's pretty difficult. So you need to think like what we talked to identify the audience, which group is your target group. And if you cannot, there is another way. It's like for the entry level, you talk about this. So we sometimes have that situation. We talk to librarians, we talk to students, and we talk to researchers, professors at the same presentation. Sometimes there is a thing, and they are in the same level, but for some things, they are totally in different levels. And then we could make different parts. Like the first section, I'm talking to the librarians, and the second section, I'm talking to entry-level researchers. And the third one, this is for the really high-level professors. You can do this, but yeah, this is not a pretty easy one. I think it's very difficult, and because you need make sure that the audience won't lose concentration during you're talking when you are talking about other people's part. And the thank you can request to have the minutes of this meeting. Oh, minutes. It's 40. So my preparation for this webinar of this meeting, do you mean the webinar? I'm sorry. Summary, please. Thank you. What kind of summary do you want? Like a summary about this webinar? And do too much. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about two main things. The first is about the like general thing about effective science communication. We talk about the benefits of engaging in science communication, because not every researcher want to share their results, their research. And then if you want to share, you should first understand your audience and then identify your audience and reach to your audience. And in this part, you need to make sure correctly match audience goals and methods. And the second part, we talked about giving an effective presentation, which is a part, one way to reach your audience. And we are giving an effective presentation. You need to know good presentation advance your career. So that's very important. And you need to know a good talk is mainly rely on the speaker itself, first the confidence, and then conversational. And then you need to know how to plan the talk, turning your material to a story, the elevator page, the 3 minutes practice, the acknowledgement, and handling multiple themes, natural breaks, that's tips. And structuring the talk, use a narrative structure, structuring the talk. And in the end, you set up your slide deck, use your software, choose your suitable templates. If you're going to go to the conference, you could check the checklist before you go and make sure everything is all ready. So the recording is shared on YouTube. When you receive the, we're gonna send the recording again to you. When you receive that, you can find the YouTube account. And then on that account, you can see the previous 2 seminars video. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I'm gonna see you all next month. So the next month is enhance the international impact of your research, and we will share the PDF, the video to you, and just wait for our emails. Thank you very much, and have a good day. See you next month.